All right, old school NBA fans, self-research NBA facts. I got another video for you. I know it seems crazy. I'm in a transitional period moving offices, so this is what I got today. I want to say thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. I know it's not much to look at. Mostly it's just me, talking, but I like to think that I got some good information here. I've put a lot of work into it. And today is no different. Again, I appreciate all the support. A lot of very knowledgeable people that leave comments. I appreciate it. So I said I was going to do a video on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and this is it. I've kind of rethought my position on Kareem. I've always had him number 3 all time, but upon digging into it a little deeper, which I suspected, I've rethought my position. I'm going to do my top 25 or whatever. I'll probably do it next month. There's going to be a lot that goes into it. I'm not just doing rings and MVPs. No. There's so much more that goes into it than those things. But anyway, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is an interesting case because when you look at him at face value, you think, okay, he's got 6 championships and 6 MVPs. Now this is the Shannon Sharp, the Nick Wright. These kind of people, that's just what they look at, that's what he's got, 6 MVPs and 6 championships, so he's got to be up there. He's got the longevity. He was the leading scorer until LeBron James broke the record. But I'm here to say that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had some of the highest level help ever. He underwhelmed at times, and he got very, very lucky as well. So first, we'll talk about the head-to-head stuff. When he went up against top 75 centers, okay, the first one was in 1970 against Willis Reed. He lost 4-1. In 71 Western semifinals, they beat Golden State. That would be Nate Thurmond 4-1. In 71, beat Wilt Chamberlain 4-1. And then in the finals, beat the Bullets in Wes Unseld 4-0. Now, all those teams, you're talking 41-41, 48-34, and 42-40. So those teams, there wasn't much behind those guys. Now, in 72 semifinals, beat Golden State again, Nate Thurmond 4-1, but then lost to Wilt in the Western Conference Finals. That was that historic season the Lakers had, and they were 69-13. 73 Western Conference semifinals. The Bucks were a 60-win team. They got upset by a 47-win Golden State team. That'd be Nate Thurmond, beat them 4-2. 74 finals. The Lakers are playing the Celtics head-to-head. Game 7 in Milwaukee. The Bucks lose by 15 points. Bucks are 59-23. Celtics 56-26. So they're comparable. Dave Cowens had marginally better stats than Kareem did, and Boston won that in 7. That's a loss though. Now, in the next time around would have been 77 against Bill Walton in the Western Conference Finals. They got swept by Portland 4-0. The next time he went up against a top 75 center was 1981 against Moses Malone. Kareem had a plethora of great players and lost 2-1. Houston beat him. And then in 83, he played Moses again in the finals, got swept 4-0. 84 finals against Robert Parrish, they lost 4-3. The 85 finals, again against Boston, they won that series 4-2. And then the last one was 87 against Robert Parrish in Boston. They won that one 4-2. So when you add all that up, in 14 head-to-heads against top 75 players, he won 6 and lost 8. Now I know it's not that simple. There's a lot more that goes into it and all that. But I'm arguing that Kareem almost always had the better supporting cast than the other team. Not always, but the majority of the time he did. Now, we talk about the championships. He only won one until teaming up with Magic Johnson. And that's a fact. And he did have success without Magic, but he had Oscar Robertson, another all-time great player, and an additional Hall of Famer in Bob Dandridge. But Magic had success without Kareem those last 2 years before he retired. The MVPs of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He won 6, 71, 72, 74, 76, 77, and 1980. Okay? Now, in 1971, they had the best record. They were undoubtedly, he deserved that MVP. Now, in 72, there was an argument to be made that Jerry West should have won that. But, you know, whatever. He didn't, and that's that. In 74, it was really close voting between Kareem, Bob McAdoo, and Bob Lanier. It was 528 to 451 to McAdoo to 395 Bob Lanier. That one there is very iffy. In 1976, it was really close. Kareem had 409, Bob McAdoo 393, and Dave Cowens 378. I mean, it was so tight. 77, no doubt he deserved it. He had a great season. In 1980, most likely I'd say he probably deserved it. Now, for sure, he probably should have won 3 of those MVPs, 71, 77, and 80. The other 3 are questionable. But those other 3, you bring in the ABA players that were not in the league then. And you got to think that Kareem wouldn't have won all 3. He may not have won any of them. In 71, 72, Rick Barry was in the ABA. These are all the Hall of Famers in the ABA. Rick Barry in 71 and 72. Dan Eisel, 71 through 76. Charlie Scott, 71, 72. Zelmo Beatty, 71, 72. Mel Daniels, 71, 74. Artis Gilmore, 72 to 76. Dr. J, 72 to 76. George McGinnis, 72 to 76. Billy Cunningham, 73 74. George Gervin, 73 to 76. Moses Malone, 75 and 76. Bobby Jones, 75 and 76. And David Thompson, 1976. A plethora of great players. Now, some of these players would have been top 75 players had they played in the NBA, or if the NBA would have included the ABA. Like Artis Gilmore, no question, he would have been in there, but he didn't do enough in the NBA. Now, some of these guys were top 75 players anyway. George Gervin, Moses Malone, Rick Barry, and Billy Cunningham all became top 75 because of their NBA career. So I believe that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would have won probably 4 MVPs, which brings him down a little back down to earth a little bit. If you include all of the ABA players, if they would have been in the league, I believe the 74 and the 76 he would not have won. Definitely shouldn't have won 76 with a 42 and 40 team. There was just too many other players in the ABA had great seasons. Not to mention McAdoo and Cowens almost beat him out in the NBA. And that was in 76, 74. They had a good regular season and all, but there was close voting there too. And then you bring in the other guys, the Dr. J's, Artis Gilmore, so on and so forth. Now, Kareem's scoring title in 72, I believe that's when he averaged, I think, 34.1 or 33.1, whatever it was. Rick Barry was right there. Rick Barry actually scored more in the NBA than he did in the ABA. So it's fair to say Rick Barry easily could have won that scoring title, taken it away from him. The blocks titles, 75, 76, I believe those would have been taken away by probably Artis Gilmore, who was just a block machine. And the rebound title in 76, I think Moses Malone would have had that, beat Kareem out of his one rebound title. I think Kareem's resume would have looked a lot different, and his numbers did go down when they merged right before the 76-77 season, no doubt about it. Now, here's what's crazy to me is Wilt Chamberlain got upset several times. Okay, he got upset in 1973 to Golden State. That was a team that had 13 less wins, no business beating them. And they were loaded with talent. Had Bob Dandridge, had Oscar Robertson, Lucius Allen, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Good team. 74, losing that Game 7 at home by 15. Both those things should have been black marks. 75, I give him a little bit of a pass because he missed 16 games, because he missing the playoffs. 76, no pass. 42 and 40, and you had Gail Goodrich on your team, a Hall of Fame guard. I don't think so. 77, best record in the NBA, and you get swept by Bill Walton, who had no Hall of Famers on his team either. It was just Bill Walton. So we can't say, talk about the supporting cast. Bill Walton had good players. He just didn't have, Hall of Fame players. Not that really makes too much of a difference. I mean, players like Lucius Allen, Cazzie Russell, Kermit Washington, they're all solid players. Made all-stars, all defensive teams, that kind of thing. The 81 loss to the Rockets is also another upset. That's the the fourth one. He got upset in 73, 74, 77, 81, which was a very bad upset. And then the upset in 86, losing in 5 to Houston when they were 11 wins better than the Rockets were. To me, that's a lot of upsets. And he got swept several times in his career, too, in 4-game series. Got swept in 77. He got swept in 83. Got swept in 89. I know he was an old man then. But, he got swept a few times. Now, here's where it gets interesting for me about Kareem. This guy had so much help. He didn't do anything without a high-level point guard, though. Nothing. He did, well, he had some success, but he never reached the finals without these guys. And he had shots in 75, 6, 7, 8, and 9. He had 5 years without Magic and Oscar. And he won some MVPs, won some, block titles. That was his peak, you could say. But even with other help, it just wasn't enough. Now, you look at, like I said, in the Bucks days, he had Bob Dandridge and Oscar Robertson from 71 to 74. He had just Bob Dandridge in 70 and 75. From 76 to 79, in 76 he had Gail Goodrich. 77 is the only year he had no Hall of Fame teammates, but still they had the best record in the NBA. 78 and 79 are interesting because he had Jamal Wilkes. He had he had Adrian Dantley. That's 2 Hall of Famers right there. Norm Nixon, who was going to be a Hall of Famer, but he got hurt. He had about half of a Hall of Fame career until the injury, maybe even a little more than half. But going by year, this is how many Hall of Fame teammates Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had. In 1971, 1971, 2. 72, 2, 73, 2, 74, 2, 1975, 1, 76, 1, 77, 0, 78, he had 4, 79, 3, 1980, 4, 1981, 3, 1982, 4, 1983, 4, 1984, 5, 1985, 4, 1986, 3, 1987, 3, 1988, 3, 1989, 3. And when I say Hall of Fame, I mean in the regular rotation, the top 6, 7 players. That's how many Hall of Famers he had. Now, you go by, you want to look at it by how often did he have a certain number of Hall of Famers? He had 0 Hall of Famers on his team 1 time. He had 1 Hall of Famer 3 times. He had 2 Hall of Famers 4 times. He had 3 Hall of Famers 6 times, 4 Hall of Famers 5 times, and 5 Hall of Famers once. And that was in 84 when he had Bob McAdoo, Michael Cooper, Jamal Wilkes, James Worthy, and Magic Johnson. He had 5 of them. Now I know Worthy didn't play in the playoffs that year. He was injured. But that is a loaded team. He had loaded teams his whole career. I mean, this is a 20-year career, and what he had was just an amazing number of Hall of Famers. I think he played with a total of 47. So he was playing with about 2.5 Hall of Famers every year of his career. When you consider the ABA, some of the best players. I just gave you a dozen Hall of Fame players that were not playing in the NBA. And you consider some of the, I don't know if choke's the right word, but just underwhelming performances. I think Kareem is a little bit overrated. I do. Now, I think that he should have won it in 77. They're the best record in the NBA. You're the best player. I mean, you won the MVP in 77. No reason why you shouldn't have won that. You got swept. In 74, you have Game 7 at home, and you got beat. Oscar Robertson's last year was still getting older for sure. Bob Dandridge was still in his prime. You lost, though. You had a good supporting cast. There was just no real excuse for it. You got swept in 83 by the Sixers. Your team was absolutely loaded. You had 4 Hall of Famers besides yourself. But no reason to get swept in 83. Lose, sure. Swept, no. Losing in 5 in Houston to 80, losing to 5 to Houston in 86 is also something that was not good. That's a black mark for sure. Kareem's got a lot of positives. Sure, he won the awards. He led the league in something 7 times, which that's great. It is. But I just think he was also lucky in some degree because the ABA had just enough players in it that you never felt the full strength of the NBA. And the NBA, because of the ABA, you never felt the full strength of it, all the players together until 77. Now, he did win the MVP in 77, even after the merger. But all that really did was that that only brought in 4 teams. Of course, yeah, that meant Dr. J and, George Gervin, of course. Some of these players, had to, Dan Issel, of course. Some of these players had to find teams or whatever. But anyway, that's it for this video. I've definitely rethought my position on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His longevity is great, no doubt. He never really got a serious injury. A lot of great things about him. Is he top 5? I think he probably still is, but he's not number 3. Like I had him. I think other people did more with less help. And again, it was almost like he was winning these MVPs by default. It was like, well, there's Kareem. Who else are you going to give it to? But even a little bit lesser players, were challenging him. We're having almost as good of years. Like Bob McAdoo. Like a Dave Cowens. They're not on Kareem's level. I mean, they're top 75 players. But they were winning MVPs. I mean, they were really, really good players, no doubt about it. But with Dr. J, playing so many years in the ABA, I got to think, as great as he was in the ABA, that he would have won at least one of those MVPs, if not 2. And I think Rick Barry would have taken that scoring title away. And I just think between Moses Malone and Artis Gilmore and everybody else, I don't know I think he has 4 MVPs. I really do. I think the championships probably stay the same because he got 5 playing with Magic. And in 71, they were such a good team that year. I don't think the championships would have waned at all. But you got to understand, he won with the highest level of help of about any player. He had the most help, I would say, of any player, including Bill Russell. I'm saying his teams were probably better than Bill Russell. I mean, Bill Russell never played with a player as good as Oscar Robertson or Magic Johnson. Absolutely not. Now, Havlicek, Cousy, Sam Jones, sure, they were great players. But, they weren't those guys. You know what I mean? So, anyway, that's it for this That's it for this episode. If you guys got anything to add in the comments, something I'm not looking at or forgetting, that's fine. But like I said, I've rethought my position on Kareem. He is not number 3 anymore. I'm moving him back down a little bit. I thought he should have gotten at least one more championship out of all those opportunities that he had. And he came up small in some of them. I don't hold against him the last 2-3 years of his career because I know he was older. They won back-to-back in 87, 88. I think he gravy trained those 2 MVPs, not the best player. I think he won the championship as the best player in maybe 3 championships. You can make a case for 2, but it wasn't 4, and it certainly wasn't 6. So anyway, that's it for this episode, and Thanks for watching.